I'm back at Westbury Acres today. It's a beautiful, sunny 70-degree day after we had a very gloomy and rainy week. So this is my first time coming back out here after a few days. See how much rain we got, see what things are looking like, and give you some updates on all that. Oh yeah, it's like 1.75 inches of rain this week. So that's pretty good soaking. So I don't know how well it shows on camera, but these stripes are still in this fescue from the first mow that I did with the Ventrac. That had to be, at least a month ago. So the first thing I noticed out here today is that everything definitely needs a mow. I actually haven't mowed with the Ventrac out here again because I needed to get some different blades, and I just got those blades in, and Kelsey and I were just doing surgery to try to get these things put on there. Of course, we don't have the right size socket, so she went to go get that, and I'm going to show you what's going on with this ryegrass out front. So I knew when I planted this in the spring that it was going to have some other weeds come in, some other grasses. There's some rough grasses that have come into this in certain areas, and I expected that that was going to happen. If you see right here, there's some thin areas going on, but with ryegrass, not very difficult to take care of things like that. I probably won't try to seed anything more since it's nearly June, and I'll just let this go as it is. Try to thicken it up as much as possible and get to the fall time, do a proper overseeding on it. We'll see where we're at about that time of year, how it's looking by then. For only a few weeks in, not too bad. I completed my first mow last week out here and got a bit of footage of that, but today I thought I would bring out the Milwaukee mower, go show you what the shade area looks like and get that mowed. And also I would just mow this section with it out front. Plenty of work to do in this section, but I think it's off to a good start, just considering a late start to our spring, just planting it. The other thing about that mower is, one, it's nice to be mowing on something again that's not super bumpy. My backyard at home is definitely not very smooth anymore, but if you're on a surface like this, you're not going up hills or having to do a whole lot with it. That thing is so light that there's no reason you even need to use the self-propelled feature. You can just push it right along. No problems with that. As you start to go up hills, if you just want a little extra help with that, then you can use the self-propelled, but otherwise it is very light. The thing that I'm likely going to have to do with these rough grasses is, the one benefit to them is being able to figure out exactly where they are, is that they grow faster than the actual turf that I want. So that part at least tells me where they're at. So the other option will be, as things continue to come up, would be to come in here and paint these leaves as they're taller than the rest of the grass with a grass killer. So it's not going to touch any of the stuff that I want to keep, only applying to those actual leaves of the stuff that I want to get rid of, and try to go that route. So this right here behind me is the Kentucky 31 underneath this blanket right here. And I'm going to remove that blanket today. As you saw over in the ryegrass as well, I took out those seeding blankets. I don't find that I need them any more than just past the germination stage, especially once I want to mow the first time. If I can take those out of there without having to rip up a bunch of grass and not just have to leave them lay there to disintegrate on their own, then that's the way that I like to do it. So this one needs to come out today. Looks like there's plenty of weeds starting to come up in here. Obviously, there's tons of weeds around this. I'm going to spray around this plot very soon and work on this area out here. This is going to just get seeded with some annual rye, hopefully within the next week. I'm just waiting for this to dry out enough that I can come in and work this soil a bit and get that annual rye down. And that chickweed, that is definitely some strong stuff. Very hard to tell in here what's grass and what's not, just considering there's a lot of weeds. So I think I'm going to mow this now at about 2.5 inches. This is still not very thick through here, honestly, but I think after getting a few mows in, I'll get a better sense of what's there. Very similar situation to everything else in terms of going to need an overseed in the fall, no doubt. Look at this field right here. and how many weeds and rough stuff has come in just because there's nothing planted here. Now you look straight over here where I planted this grass. I've done no weed control out here except putting down a pre-emergent on half of this plot and half of that plot. No pre-emergent on the rest of the plots, and no weed spraying yet at this point. It's really a pretty interesting thing to look at, just considering I'm standing on the line right here of no turf, turf. And the difference in what that does to keep out weeds, get that grass growing thick on there, hold the soil in place. So many different things that I can notice out here, just doing half of this bowl area with actual grass and half that nothing has been planted on yet. It's pretty cool experiment stuff going on so far. Just very early stages in here. I have a lot more ideas, but I've been learning a lot out here, being able to see things with my own eyes and just test different theories. Next thing is this bluegrass plot has been looking a lot better. It definitely needs more fertilizer. I have been meaning to get some fertilizer on this, but I just haven't been able to get it done with in between all the rain and stuff. So I will come out here very soon and get some more fertilizer on this before rainfall, or I can water it in if necessary. I have my above ground system, temporary system going, enough to water these plots when they need it. Definitely considering what it looked like about a month ago at the start of this season, right here looking at this to now, much improved. And that's just very typical of bluegrass. You just get really disgusted with it and think, I'm never going to plant this grass, and then all of a sudden it starts to give you that glimpse that it will eventually look good, and even more than good, it will look really nice here probably by the end of this fall. So the rest of the plots are looking pretty good. I feel like the up and down temperatures this year and very inconsistent weather has been throwing things for a loop in terms of it'll be really warm for a week or two and then it gets really cold. Sometimes it's raining a lot, sometimes it's not. I think overall they look pretty good. I'm going to be working on trying to improve some of the color throughout. It's different stages that happen beginning of summer as the grass is transitioning into a more stressful period. Sometimes they won't be quite as dark as they were in the spring. Obviously you're moving towards a warmer soil temp, which isn't what cool season grass loves. They love that cooler weather, the springtime, fall time type weather. One of the things that's going on right now is that it is seed head time. So these grasses, obviously, when I went out to Oregon, I got to see exactly how they grow these in to produce the grass seed off of these plants. But remember that this is grass and it's a growing plant and it wants to reproduce as well. So there are seed heads all over, especially on perennial rye. A lot of people don't like that there's so many seed heads on perennial rye. Now I find that at home when I cut it consistently and low, so under an inch, I'm mowing every other day or so, I don't find any problems with the seed head at that point. It seems like it's cutting it off enough that it tells it not to go too crazy in terms of trying to reproduce all those seed heads. Now out here, what I have noticed, since this is the first time I've ever had ryegrass, a full ryegrass area that I'm mowing taller, that the seed heads are coming out like crazy now. If you can see across here, there's just a sea of that stocky type seed head plant. It's very difficult to mow, and you'll find that after you do mow, a lot of times you're going to see a slight white cast across the grass just because those stalks don't cut very clean. As much as you sharpen your blades, it's still difficult to cut through those stalks. So that's the stage that we're at right now. It might be something that you're seeing in your lawn too, so don't freak out about that. Usually in a few weeks' time, if you keep cutting this, it will tell the plant, okay, we're done with that stage. Let's go back to just being normal, and this should end, and you won't have to deal with those stalks again during the middle of the year. So this same thing is going to happen on your other grasses too. This isn't just a ryegrass thing. There will be happening in the fescue, will be happening in the bluegrass out here. I've definitely seen it out in these plots, but it doesn't seem to be as prolific as this one ryegrass patch over here. Well, I'm back at the shade area. We have done some work down here. Had our first camping out here last weekend, and of course it happened to be the coldest night that we've had in a while. It got down to like 38 or something like that. But it was still a good time, and this is just really looking quite amazing down here from what it was just 1 year ago. So we have some steps put in now. We also have the fire pit put in down here, so that we can hang out down there and have it look a little nicer, and there's a nice edge cut for it and everything. So I will get some mowing done today down here. So this is fun. Just took the ATV off here and both sides of the trailer broke these little clips in one trip. Both sides. How does that happen? We're also in a wind advisory today, so I'm not sure how much talking I'll be able to do on camera, but if not, I will just explain on some voiceover stuff. But I'm out here today to get some annual ryegrass seed down to hopefully control some erosion that's going on. It has gotten better since some of the weeds have grown in on some of these hills, but I want to put down something else too, just to make sure everything is good and held in place so I can eventually change it into whatever I want it to be. But right now, it just needs something there to make sure I don't keep losing so much soil in storms and all that. Very dusty and dirty job, but man, does that thing produce results. Nice and flat, looks good. I'm gonna try another method on that hill because I don't really want to till into that big hill very much. I just know that as soon as it rains, if I don't have anything down on there, blankets or something, I'm gonna lose a lot of that soil if I till into it right now. So I'm gonna leave pretty much the weeds that are there and not try to till those up, but I'm gonna get my ATV with the drag behind it and see if I can just scratch that surface and see if I can make it look decent. So also the reason that I'm using annual rye is just something that's going to come up very quickly. You can get it down, get a few rains on it, and usually you'll see something popping up. So that's really the reason that I went with this. Definitely on my list for the future to get some kind of different spreader, a pull behind spreader, or I'll figure out something else. I just haven't made my mind up as to what I really want. So I've talked about this drag before, but there's multiple applications for it. So I flipped it over so I'm not digging into the ground anymore, just using it to glide over the surface. And I went across these plots after I seeded just to put a slight bit of that topsoil over top of some of this seed to hold it in place. So the last thing that I did while I was out there, and also I did about a week or so ago here at home, was I put some fertilizer down. We've talked a lot about spring flush this year if you've been paying attention to the channel, but really that's just that time for cool season grass in the spring, where as much as it seems like you mow it, it wants to grow, and it's very difficult sometimes to even keep up with that growth. But that's just a period of time, and then it transitions into something more manageable as you get into the early summer. You want to pay attention to this though as far as timing goes, because this will be when you want to apply a fertilizer application. The plant is growing in the spring, using a lot of energy to put into all of that top growth. Now that that's slowed down, you want to give the plant some fertilizer, send some more nutrients back into the root system, and try to fend off this summer stress that's about to be upon us. That is the timing of that. I'm using Grower G today on these plots, and I also use the same thing here at home inside the fence for the fescue. Love for you to check out another video on the channel. Hope you enjoyed this one today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.